When is my client ready for change? That's actually a very good question. And I'm going to give you the answer, sort of. My name is Dr. Monica Gilbert. I am a board certified behavior analyst, licensed psychologist, and licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. And the answer to that question comes from the Transtheoretical Model of change. So for those of you who haven't heard about this, this is sort of like a model that was borrowed into motivational interviewing. So that's why we hear a lot about the Transtheoretical Model in motivational interviewing. And this was authored by Prochaska and DiClemente, who came up with this model. And if you think about a behavior that you probably want to use, you will see yourself in one of these phases. So the Transtheoretical Model of change explains that we all come into that change phase in different phases. Sometimes we are ready to go. Other times we need more information linking our current behavior to potential future consequences. And sometimes we just need a plan. So the first phase of this model is the pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation is where the client is saying, what problem? I don't have a drinking problem. I drink pint or a big cup of vodka every day. My family's no longer speaking with me, but I really don't think that it's a big deal. We also see it with parents that come into sessions, and sometimes they're court mandated, school mandated, or maybe the other parent has, wanted to start therapy sessions. And the parent will say something like, oh no, little Tommy will grow out of it. It's not really a big deal. Or he's been expelled a couple of times from different schools, but he's just being a boy. So when you see comments like this, it raises that red flag that perhaps this person is in the pre-contemplative stage. And the important thing is that based on what phase the client is in, you want to handle the session a little bit differently. So this client that's in the pre-contemplative stage, they may not be ready to hear about what to do because they're not really acknowledging that there is a behavioral issue in place. So you want to first plant the seed when you see that a client is in this phase. You want to start providing them with information and using more of the reflective listening and really building that rapport. The next phase is the contemplation. And this is when a client's like, maybe my son getting expelled from school can be an issue, but you know what? I just don't have the time right now to tackle that behavior. So this is a client that perhaps has acknowledged that there is an issue or a difficulty, but is not yet ready to move forward. So this client just needs some linkage between the problem behavior and future consequences. Something like, so you mentioned that little Tommy slaps you softly and he's 5 years old now. What would happen when he's 15? You want to present them with those long-term effects of the current behavior and then just leave the door open. The next phase is the preparation phase. And in this phase, the parent the client has already acknowledged that there is a difficulty or an issue that they want to work on, and they're ready to go, but they don't have the right equipment yet, right? So they need a plan and they need something maybe visual with auditory, numbers, colors, whatever helps them. So this is when you start preparing them. This is when you can start talking about the theoretical pieces of functions of behavior, positive and negative reinforcement and punishment, and all of those great things that we love to speak about all the time. Then we go into the next phase, which is the action phase. And this is when they're actively intervening in their child's behavior. The next phase after that is the maintenance phase. And this is when we can actually fade out services because the client is already doing what they're supposed to be doing, or what they've acknowledged that they want to do based on the behavior they want to change, and they've been doing it for the long run, right? So this is when we can start backing up and start allowing them to take the reins of the behavior. And then sometimes we have something that's called the relapse. And in the relapse, different things can happen. Perhaps there's a new stressor that was added to the family. Perhaps there's some bootleg reinforcement. Family members come to visit during Christmas or during other holidays, and that can really set the parent back. So during this phase, you just want to reestablish that support and emphasize to them that this is not the end of the road. This is actually a U-turn. what can we learn from this relapse and how do we make this stronger? So it's important to acknowledge again what phase of change the client is in, because you will intervene and you will communicate differently with them according to which part of this they're in. So I'm curious to know, what phase of change are you in changing your behavior?